Hello, I'm Brian Johnson from Masterpiece Archery Targets and Revolution Taxidermy Supply. We're talking today about pinpoint perfect shot accuracy, and we're talking specifically with the sight in your buck shooting systems. We have 5 different shooting systems under that category. But first, a little preview. The sight in your buck shooting system is the top piece of a pyramid. Underneath that is center kill technology. Center kill technology is based upon perfect anatomy. Hopefully you've watched the previous 2 videos which goes into detail about this, but if you didn't, here's a quick overview. Perfect anatomy deals with the skeletal structure in the internal organs of a white-tailed deer, and we found the geometric center of the deer of where to shoot it both horizontally and vertically. The center kill technology is based upon our perfect shot placement, which is based upon horizontal and vertical, and it's also based upon the direct plumb line down below the middle of the backbone, where we actually have a center axis point where all the arrows go through, no matter where the deer is shot at. No matter how high the arrows go in or how far the arrows are shot at a quartering away angles, they all go through this one spot, which is in the middle of what we used as an analogy of the middle of a paper plate, so that you have the largest kill area possible. If you have the largest kill area possible, which means the largest target, you have the greatest degree of error that if you miss the spot you're aiming at, that you'll still be able to kill the deer. Now what we're going to do is we're going to break, and we're going to actually shoot a deer, and we're going to start with our first of 5 sight in your buck shooting systems. So we'll go there and we'll explain that. The killer buck has 5 different shooting systems, 5 different options that you can choose of. They are all in the category of what we call the sight in your buck shooting systems. Now, I know it may sound strange. You sight in your gun, you sight in your bow, but I'm sure you've never heard of the term sight in your buck, sight in your deer. The reason you haven't is it's never been invented before. And let me tell you a little bit of the reasoning behind it. If we take the paper plate trick that we talked about earlier, where you put a dot in the middle of a paper plate, you put this out at, say, 100 yards if you're using your deer rifle, 20 yards if you're using your bow, you sight it into, you're right on the money, okay? That's what everybody does. It's very common. If you then come to your deer, and the deer is at an unknown angle as far as how he's angling away, it's an unknown vertical angle, how high you are in the tree, how far the deer is out. If you shoot at that bullseye that's right behind the front legs of a deer that's on 100% of all archery targets, you can end up crippling the deer a great deal of the time. So our first shooting system is nothing more than, as you can see here, a single circle like every archery target. This is probably the only video you've ever seen in your life where a person makes a product and he runs his own product down. One of my main purposes of inventing the killer buck is to teach shooting at a deer with absolutely no circles on it, because deer don't walk through the woods with circles, and the circles that are on a deer actually teach you to cripple a deer. But what we're going to do now is we're going to take and we're going to shoot 4 arrows at this deer, and as we shoot them, I'm going to go back and we're going to explain what that is. So we're going to have our archer, which is up in the tree. He's going to shoot this up in the tree at a typical 15-foot ladder stand. The deer's 10 yards away. He's also going to shoot it first on the ground from 10 yards away horizontally. So we're going to move the cameras and we'll get to see how this works. Yep. Okay, now let's dissect Jacob's shot. His first shot that was on the ground from the perfect bullseye, as you can see, He's about, I would say about 1.5 inches, 2 inches low, and he's directly below, it looks like, or pretty close, a little behind the bullseye circle. If you notice on the side camera here, we have 2 cameras going, there's a trajectory actually angling down here. And we found out we spent a tremendous amount of time studying this. If you stand on the ground at a hunter who's 5'11", who shoots at the deer at the height of a live deer, the arrow, by the time it hits the outside of the deer, is going to be down in the middle of the deer about 1 inch below where its entry point is. That's how come you'll see from this camera, you'll see how this is angled down. Okay? Now, if you take a look at the trajectory of this arrow here, this is 30 degrees. And you see by aiming at that spot there, he hit basically on the same plane as the other arrow, just a little bit higher, and he hit forward. Now, if you watched our previous videos dealing with center kill technology, this is where this is going to start. All the dots, all the things that I said earlier that may seem complicated or confusing, they're going to slowly come into importance and you're going to get understanding. His shot is 30 degrees. Okay? Now that's the shot. If he would have hit the outside of the deer at that angle, I'm going to turn it like this so you can see it like this. Okay? See that angle there? If he would have hit, this is the outside fur here, if we would have hit the deer there, that far up in the deer, by the time the arrow got to the center of the deer, he would have hit our kill zone, which is in the center of the deer, which is called what? Center kill technology. But what happened is, now I'm going to pull this arrow out real slow, he shot, and he hit not only here, he hit about 1.5 inches below center, and he hit forward, but here's the catch. It's not where he hit that. See where my bullet point is on the arrow? On the tip on the heart? That's not where he hit. This is where he hit on the outside. So if he hit on the outside here, and you take this at 30 degrees, look what's happening. He's going through, and if he misses, if he hits the heart, he's good by hitting just the bottom tip of the heart by the time he gets to the inside. If he hit back behind the heart or forward from the heart, there's a good chance that that shot there would clip just 1 lung or possibly 2 lungs, and the next thing you know, he could cripple the deer. Now, what is my point? My point is to hit the biggest target possible, center kill technology, he needed to shoot up over 3 inches higher up here, and actually, of course, back there, for that arrow to hit to be able to go through that center point there. And there's no shooting system on the market that can tell you exactly where this is. As we go through with the different shooting systems, we're going to have you with a pin prick accuracy. We're actually using a toothpick that we're going to put in the target to show you how accurate the system is. This system that I've done here with the circles, I'm doing for 2 reasons. One is, person buys an archery target, it comes with a circle in it, that's what people want, so that's what I have to sell them. But what I'm going to actually do is show you why these circles actually teach people to cripple deer. That's coming in the next segment. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn the deer at an angle away. They call it a quartering away angle. And Jacob is going to take the same 2 shots, one on the ground and one up in the tree. And we're going to aim at the same spot, this X right here, because that's the way all archery targets you are. And we're going to see what the results are when he does that. Okay, let's take a look at Jacob's shot from not my standpoint, dealing with anatomy and center kill technology. Let's look at it from the standpoint, if he was competing in a 3D archery shoot. Now this is very important that you understand there's a difference in a 3D archery shoot than there is in shooting an animal, in dealing with anatomy. Now, if you want to win money and make your living in archery and shooting 3D targets, you have to be able to hit that little circle from, I'm guessing, 40 yards away. So from his standpoint, let's take a look at his two shots. His first shot that was on the ground, he actually hit the 14 ring. So he would have scored a 14 out of a 14 because he cut the line of the X there. His second shot from the tree, which looks low, from a scoring standpoint, he went from a 14 in the center one, a 12 on the next ring. He cut the line in the following ring, so he actually would have scored a 10. Now there's different scoring systems across the country, so some may quibble about whether it's a 10 or an 8. But he would have got a 14 and a 10 by the scoring system. So that would have given him a 24 out of a possible 28. So when he writes down on a scoring card, he'd be pretty happy how he shot. But now let's take a look at it differently. Let's take a look at it from Brian Johnson's sight in your buck shooting system. Okay? Let's go back to the paper plate. On the paper plate shot, from his first shot that was on the ground, he hit from the bullseye, he hit about as close as you could get. If I could shoot there every time, I'd be very happy. His next shot, he is really only down about from that center, about an inch. He's only about maybe 3 inches low right here. Now, if you're shooting at 20 yards, 3 inches low, you would say, hey, as long as you're on the paper plate, you're going to kill the deer. That's the common thing you hear all the time. As long as you can keep your arrows in a paper plate, you'll kill the deer. Well, not only is he on the paper plate, he's not even probably halfway down from the mark there. And so that would look like a good scoring system. He's on the paper plate. So by both those scoring mechanisms, it seemed good. But let's take a look at these shots anatomically. Okay? This first shot here, where he hit the 14 ring, because the arrow is angled forward, okay? Let's look at this from this lung. The center kill technology where we want the arrow to hit is in that bullseye, but it's in the bullseye directly below the backbone. So if we take a look at his shot where he entered in the deer, if you can see this here, if I can show this right to the camera, he entered in there, except not really. He entered in out here because you have ribs, you have fur. A winter coat deer has a lot of fur. You could have 3 inches of fur. So he entered in here, but he entered in at an angle like this. Okay? So if I take this in a top view and turn it, if he has an angle like this from the outside and he's angled forward, what's he going to get? He's going to get the very front, if I can show this right, the very front of this. And yes, he is going to hit both lungs and he is going to kill the deer. But do you see where his arrow is actually entering the vital organ group? If you went to the first video dealing with perfect whitetail anatomy, these lungs make up what's called the vital organ group, and instead of his arrow entering through the center of the vital organ group, directly below the backbone, he went through the very front of it. And as you can see, the very front of the lungs is narrower height-wise than it is in the back. So that would have been a kill shot, but to have hit the deer perfectly there, he would have had to hit somewhere way back here to hit behind that spot. But again, if you're going to a 3D archery shoot, you have to shoot this. And my point is, the 3D archery shoots teach people to cripple deer because they're teaching you muscle memory of where to shoot a deer no matter what the angle is. Now, let's take a look at his shot from the tree. And again, this deer is 10 yards out from the tree. He's up on a 15-foot ladder stand. And he shot about 2 to 3 inches below center. So again, if we take a look at this here, he went from, if this is center kill here, he went 2 to 3 inches lower. He went at an angle like this, at that 30-degree angle, but it didn't enter here. It entered out here. So by the time that arrow went in compounded angle forward, if I hold the lungs like this, by the time that went forward, he's probably going to hit the bottom of one lung. And if he hits one lung and comes out, and he doesn't hit a major artery, there's a very, very good chance that deer is going to live. If he hits one lung and hits a major artery, the deer will die. If he hits the one lung and he clips the bottom of the other lung, the deer is going to die and he'll die quickly. So that's a borderline shot. And my point on this is very simple. He's only 3 inches off from where he was aiming. That's not very far. and he may end up have shot the deer, and the deer may not die. The deer may end up being crippled. If it's a single lung shot and it runs a little ways and sits down and doesn't bleed, the other lung is going to give him oxygen to breathe. That hole will end up healing up and stop bleeding, or it could do that. And I can tell you numerous instances where a single lung shot where the deer is alive, including me, where I shot the deer in a perfect shot right here, but the deer was close, and I angled down, came out on the same side, and I shot the deer a month later during the gun season. So I know firsthand about what a single lung shot does on a perfect shot, but at the wrong trajectory angle. Now, I'm going to tell you two little stories. One is I was watching a TV show, and there was a gentleman on there who was buffalo hunting with his bow. He shot the buffalo, and the arrow went right behind the front leg, just like this shot here. Right in there, he's on the ground, and he goes, perfect shot, because he hit just like Jacob did here. But if you think how much skin, meat, and fur there is on a buffalo coming out, if you take that same shot there and a buffalo there, you may have 10 inches that it takes of penetration before you get into the thorax cavity to hit the lungs. So now if you take that same shot and you bring it out to here, by the time his arrow went forward, I don't think he got into anything of the vital organ group. So I was thinking as I was watching the show, what's going to happen? He said, perfect shot. And to him, probably going to 3D archery shoots, you shoot right behind that leg. He hit exactly where he was aiming. He hit the bullseye in the center of the plate, but he had not sighted in his buck. And that's what we're going through in these systems. He'd sighted his bow in, he aimed at the dot, but the dot he aimed at the deer is in the wrong spot. So what happened is, to finish the show up, he had to shoot the buffalo 2 more times to be able to harvest it. In fact, this problem is so serious, and it's one of my goals in life, is to change the way that people shoot deer and teach them exactly where to shoot deer, which this system doesn't do. I'm showing you by this system here, shooting that circles, 1 circle behind the front leg, it's a bad thing. I'm only doing it to illustrate it, and 2, there's people going to want it, and it is the proper shot on the ground. Now, next thing I want to do is I want to plug a book from kind of an unknown hunter. His name is Gary Stanley, and his book is The Little Things, Successful Deer Hunting Made Easy. It's a great book, but deer hunting's not going to be made easy. Sorry, Gary, no matter how you do it. And you're way above me. He is one of the most advanced hunters that I've ever met in my life. He shot like 12 turkeys on the ground without a blind, sitting there. Everything that he does is unconventional, but if you read his book, he is so detailed in things. He's as detailed in how to hunt as I am on my anatomy. Now, when I met him, I was selling this system, and I met him at the 2014 ATA show in Nashville, Tennessee. And he told me not only did he believe in what I'm doing is right, he quit going to 3D archery shoots because they were teaching him muscle memory to shoot the deer in the wrong spot, and he saw they're teaching people to cripple deer. So when he saw my geometric shot placement system, which is some of the next, remember we have 5 systems, it's some of the next ones coming, he saw that's right, that's the way to go. And him and I connected, I bought his book, and I saw he's a fanatic on scent control like nobody that I've ever met, and I have tremendous respect for his hunting abilities. So the purpose of this video you just watched is to show you that shooting at 1 circle behind the front legs is a bad thing, and it teaches to cripple deer. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go on to the next shooting system I have, which is 1 step better than this. It's not the final result, but it's leading you to be able to understand what the perfect pinpoint shot is, no matter what the angle of the deer is, and how we figure that out every time. So thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this.